These are two of the best electric family cars on the market right now. Kia EV6 and Hyundai Ioniq 5. Both have tremendous range, great practicality, and great looks, which makes sense. They share a platform, they're very similar. But even though they are very similar, they're also very different. They don't have the same batteries, they don't have the same performance, and they don't have the same price. So, which one of these is actually better? That's what we're gonna find out today. So I got myself an EV6, I got myself an Ioniq 5, and we're gonna have ourselves a death match. That's right, by the end of today, one of these two cars has to die. Metaphorically, of course. Let's start with looks. So, underneath they're identical, using the same e-gmp platform, but on the surface, they're quite different. The Ioniq 5's styling is based loosely on the Hyundai Pony from 1975, but it takes the form of a large crossover with chunky design details. It has sharp creases across the bodywork and hugely distinctive pixel-inspired headlights and rear lights. It's retro, yet at the same time quite futuristic, and might be a bit too much for people who simply want to fly under the radar. But I love it. The Kia EV6 is notably more normal. But that's not to say it isn't a brave piece of design. It's muscular in all the right places with a bulbous bonnet, a sleek profile with floating roof design, and a C-pillar that flows cleverly into a massive wraparound light cluster at the rear, which gives it a distinctive light signature, especially at night. Obviously looks are very subjective, so picking a clear winner is nigh on impossible. So I'm going to call this one a draw. Now, let's talk about value. These cars might use the same platform and have very similar technology, but their specifications are quite different, and that's reflected in their pricing. For example, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 cost around £37,000. Not bad. Meanwhile, the Kia EV6 cost around £41,000, £4,000 more. But that doesn't necessarily mean this car is better value than this car, because, as always, you get what you pay for, which brings us quite nicely to the argument about range. The cheapest Ioniq 5 has a 170 horsepower motor and a 58 kilowatt-hour net battery with an official range of 239 miles. But looking at the cheapest EV6, which is around £4,000 more, remember, you get similar power. But all versions of the car have a 77.4 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which in the case of the cheapest model gets you a 328 mile range. So for £4,000 more, you get the same power, but nearly 100 miles more range. If you don't need that range, the Ioniq 5 wins the price battle. But if you do, the EV6 gets the nod here. Now, let's talk about recharging. Both versions provide very fast theoretical charging speeds, but again with subtle differences. They'll both charge overnight at home in around the same time. On the road, with a rapid charger, the EV6 can recharge at a massive 233 kilowatts, meaning it can go from 10% to 80% in 18 minutes. If you can find a fast enough charger, of course. But the speed of recharging on the Ioniq 5 varies depending on how much you spend on it. The entry-level car charges at 175 kilowatts, while the long-range model charges at 221. Interestingly, both cars also have V2L, or vehicle to load, which allows them to power external devices. And not just laptops, connect the adapter and you can power almost anything. Power tools, fridges, washing machines, dryers. They're great for camping or even during a power cut. Now, let's look at interiors. I'm in the cabin of the Hyundai Ioniq 5 right now, and I've got to say, I really quite like it. It's all recycled materials and still feels quite premium, just like in the Kia EV6. But Hyundai have arguably been slightly more clever than Kia with some of their design elements. For example, you've got a glove drawer here, which is a huge space, which just makes so much sense. I don't know why more EV manufacturers don't do that. You also get a sliding center console for some reason. It moves all the way forward to give you more space in the back, or all the way back to give you a wealth of space for your foot. You can man spread or woman spread to your heart's content, or play footsie with your passenger. Bit of a gimmick, but nice. Also, these seats fold pretty much completely flat. So if you ever find yourself at a charging station or locked out of your house for some reason, then this is a great place to have a little bit of a nap. It's even got this little footstool which folds up to make it slightly more comfortable. Very nice. You don't get a slidey center console on the Kia or a fancy glove drawer, but the seats do recline to the same degree, albeit without a footrest. And actually the interior, to my eyes and hands, feels slightly more premium than in the Ioniq 5. Weirdly, despite having a 2.9 meter wheelbase as opposed to the Hyundai's 3 meters, it's the Kia that has more rear legroom. Yes, the Hyundai's seats do slide back and forth to give you a choice of legroom or boot space, but the Kia's second row is clearly the more spacious. Let's talk about boot space, shall we? Always important in a family car, and the Kia EV6 apparently has a pretty decent 490 litres of space, and it's a nice area as well. However, over here, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 apparently has an even bigger boot. They say it measures 527 litres, although to my eyes it looks exactly the same. In fact, the Kia is slightly more convenient because I can't find any way of dropping these rear seats. To do that, I have to walk around to the left and right hand side. However, in the Kia, you have these really handy flaps. You pull that and it folds down. Same on the other side. You've also got a ski hatch in there for loading long items. So on the whole, I think this is the more practical car. In terms of front space, front trunks, pretty much identical. Both cars have either 50 litres if you get the rear-wheel drive models or around 25 litres if you go for the all-wheel drive models. Actually, while you're there, tell me what you think. Does Kia have the more stylish charging cable bag, or does Hyundai? Look at these. Let me know in the comments down below. Which one would you prefer to rock on your local high street? This one's for me. You can probably tell I get quite passionate about boots. So what about something a little more exciting? Which of these two cars is faster? For that, I've arranged a drag race with a difference. Quite a big difference. Okay, so it's not a proper drag race. These aren't sports cars, they're family cars, but they both do have a feature called Remote Park Assist, which works a bit like Tesla's Summon feature. And I figured we'd, race them. So you press lock on both cars, you press and hold the circle button, they should wake up, and then you press the P button. In 3, 2, 1, go. And the Hyundai is off. The Kia has a slow start. Come on, go on, Kia, catch up, catch up. Right, Hyundai has a clear lead right now, has a clear lead. This looks like it could be close though because the Kia is catching up. Who's gonna win this? Nail-biting finish. It looks like the Hyundai has taken the victory. And the Kia brings up the rear. Whew. That was intense. I've been living with these two cars now for quite a few days, and I've had the chance to drive them back to back, which was interesting because I wanted to see whether there was any tangible difference between the two. Same platform, but have Hyundai and Kia set their cars up differently? And interestingly, I don't think they have, because they feel exactly the same to me. I've driven them back to back and I can't really identify any massive difference between the two. So it's kind of much of a muchness. They both feel quite firmly sprung. The suspension in a lot of electric cars, especially of this size, is generally quite firm, and these two feel almost like for like in that respect. The steering in this Kia has a nice weight to it. It isn't too hyperactive, yet it's easy to maneuver around town and also to park, which is nice. And generally, they're both really, really refined, which is nice. There is one sort of tiny difference that I've noticed between these two, and that is the seats in this Kia EV6 feel a tiny bit softer compared to the Ioniq 5. Not massively, but just a smidge more plush. One thing that is a major difference between the two cars is performance. There is no equivalent version of the Ioniq 5 that's as quick as an EV6. For example, this top model that I'm in right now uses a dual motor setup that produces 585 horsepower, and it's quick enough to do 0 to 62 in 3.8 seconds. And when you put your foot down, it really does take off. It's not startling, but if you're in sport mode, it gives you an extra surge. Obviously, it's not all about speed, and there's perhaps another area where the EV6 excels, and I think that's in the interior design. But when you drive an EV6 versus an Ioniq 5, to me anyway, you feel like you're in something a bit more upmarket, which I think, you know, adds to the driving experience. That's not to say the Ioniq 5 isn't great to drive though. Even the lower spec models are plenty quick. It rides well and it's comfortable, and both cars come with lots of nice details like a clever blind spot indicator in the dash, a head-up display, and decent adaptive cruise control with auto steering, which is akin to Tesla's autopilot feature. They're both good, but given the Kia's more plush interior and the fact they offer versions with more speed, it's the Kia that wins this round too. I don't know about you guys, but this for me has been really, really interesting. These cars are very similar, they're identical underneath, but it's incredible how, even though they use the same platform, what we've ended up with is two really distinct products. And I know that the Kia EV6 looks like it's absolutely destroyed the Hyundai, but I don't think that's actually the case. The Ioniq 5 is brilliant in many ways. It just so happens that the EV6 is slightly more brilliant in slightly more ways, to me. It is, the way I've analysed this, the better of the two cars, but only just. Whichever one you go for, I guarantee you'll be ending up with a phenomenal piece of kit that is, without question, one of the best electric cars on the market. But, like I said, this is a death match, and there is a winner, the Kia EV6, which also means there's a loser, the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Sorry, Hyundai, you gotta go.